Good morning, everyone. Andy Schwab here with your Farm and Ranch News. Despite a major loss in the U.S. Supreme Court, the EPA is continuing their fight for the Biden administration's Waters of the U.S. rule. The agency on Monday filed an appeal in the separate court case seeking a review of the preliminary injunction against the rule in 24 states. Of course, that injunction is in effect for much of the states like Montana, Wyoming, and the Dakotas after a district judge in North Dakota stopped the EPA from enforcing the rule back in April. Now, the appeals court out of St. Louis will look over the preliminary injunction to determine if that North Dakota district judge made the right move. It will certainly be interesting to see how that transpires after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on May 26 that the agency had no legal basis to use the so-called significant nexus test when making Clean Water Act determinations. The particular portion of that is the backbone of the Biden administration's rule, meaning that the administration likely has no choice but to withdraw and rewrite the rule. However, the Biden administration has given no indication on their intentions of that WOTUS rule. Well, a coalition of 18 commodity groups recently voiced their opposition to the Opportunities for Fairness in Farming, or OFF Act, in a letter to the leadership of the House and Senate Agriculture Committees the group says if enacted, the legislation would substantially undermine their members' ability to promote U.S. agriculture and natural resource-based commodity products. More specifically, they say the bill will not create any new checks and balances to ensure compliance and fairness. We'll be back shortly with a look at your markets.
We asked Montana farmer Walt Sales about the challenges of mental health in agriculture.
Another drought. There always is. There's always going to be another something. I grew up in a generation of you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps. But it's become evident is what do you do if you can't even find those bootstraps? If you need to talk to somebody, go to beyondtheweather.com for free counseling for Montana ag producers.
Welcome back, friends, to your Ag News and your markets. The Farm Credit Administration's board recently received a quarterly report on economic issues facing agriculture. According to that report, inflation remains elevated in certain sectors of the economy despite interest rate hikes and supply chain improvements. Now, while many input costs have also fallen a little bit, crop producers are likely facing tighter margins this year. Because of the rising interest rates and seasonal lending fluctuation, Farm Credit System's growth was slower in the first quarter of 2023 than it was for the same quarter in the previous 3 years. The loan portfolio continued to perform well, but non-performing assets did increase. And the box beef prices may have slowed a little bit from last week's big $23 gains on the choice cattle values. However, they should not be affected too much on this week's package bid. We certainly may not see that $5 to $10 gains on those cash cattle markets, but I'm certainly hopeful that we're going to see in the positive numbers again. Looking at the local auction barns, Buffalo Livestock will have a weigh-up special today with hopes of building on last week's strong prices. Speaking of Buffalo Livestock, co-owner Austin Snook also took over the ownership at Bowman auction market this week. I have a call in with him later this morning to discuss the details, and I'll share that at a later date. Now, grain trade was split yesterday as the nearby contracts dipped lower. Spring wheat conditions published in the weekly USDA report did show the majority sitting good to excellent. Well, that's all for Ag News and Markets. I'm Andy Schwab. Have a great rest of your day.